right, welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast about all aspects of home technology and home automation. It's the HomeTech Podcast for Sleepy Friday here of September 17th. It's been 2 weeks, I guess, and I've forgotten how to do a podcast at this point. It's amazing how quickly your skills degrade into not being able to do things, but like 2 weeks ago, back on the 2nd, we teamed up with Blackwire and did this massive 5.5 hour long CDA special. So if you do want to go check out kind of like the 2 week backlog of show, go check that out. It was an entire conversation from beginning all the way to the end, and really good stuff in there. There was a couple of there's a guitar giveaway kind of in the middle. There was talk about programming and driver development towards the end. Of course, the beginning, we talked a lot about the show, CDA show, and what was going on there. And there were people who were in Indianapolis who were able to join us and, kind of share their feelings on what was going on there. So really a great time. There was probably 20 or 30 people that were able to kind of pop in and pop out, maybe a little bit more for a while. I think there was over 100 in attendance at certain points in times, but it was a good talk, and it's over on our YouTube channel. So if you're going to watch the playback of it, I need to go in and add the chapter titles to it because it's a little kind of difficult to kind of go to the point in time that you want to with the YouTube interface and the way it is. So I had started writing down all the chapters and then realized I wanted to cut some like of the intro kind of down because there was, while people were kind of filing in and joining, YouTube was running, and I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was the best time to start things up. So anyway, all that is to say, go check it out, HomeTech.fm. There's a link there to our YouTube channel. You can go over and check out that entire talk. This week we had a pretty cool HomeTech talk. I kind of opened it up for a watch party for the Apple event where we all got to look at the new phones that we're all going to want and envy, and new cameras and all this really cool stuff that Apple's doing. Really didn't expect anything to come up with home automation or anything like that. And of course, nothing came up with home automation. It was all about iPhones and iPads and the watch, and just kind of like Apple gearing up for, December sales and going into the holidays with having products on the shelf for people to buy. I think that was their core focus, and everything else on that discussion was, pushed off on the side. It was a very tight show, and entertaining at points to watch. A lot of cool things they're doing with cameras these days, and the new phones look great. I really like what they've done. I was really impressed to see the camera technology of the current iPhone 12 Pros get moved, almost like just copied and pasted down to the normal iPhone cameras. And actually the iPhone 12 Pro Max camera got copied and pasted down into the new iPhone 13s, which is like, that's their base model phones. And that camera is excellent. So it's really cool to see that happen. And I like taking photography and whatnot with my iPhone all the time. So I'm going ahead and getting the Pro and just kind of like going straight across the models. I'm interested to see if the display is kind of enough to keep me there, but I've been really thinking about getting the Mini. I kind of going back and forth on it. So I have held one in my hand, and I really like the size of it. And I have had phones that size in the past and really enjoyed using them. And every time I pick one of those phones up, I'm like, oh, I really like the size and form factor. Why can't everything be that size? But I don't know. We have these big phones now, and that's what we'll use. With that all said, let's go ahead and, one more thing on the HomeTech Talks. We're going to be trying to spin those up next week. So I've got to change the time on it though. And that's why I really haven't been pushing them too much. The 3 o'clock time is not a good time for me anymore. There's a couple of things changed on my end. So I need to find a new time to do that. And I'll probably just reach out through the patron thing and, ask everyone in there to kind of like vote and let me know what a good time would be. To kind of get together and chat. Really want to pick those back up and pick back up off where we left off. But 3 o'clock seemed to be a pretty good time because we could pick up the guys in the UK who are just kind of ending their night, and kind of like we were able to chat with them. And then we were able to pick up a couple guys here in the States towards the end of their days, and clearly wasn't all that great for people out west who were kind of probably eating lunch or something about that time, but hoping to find a good time that works for everybody, and we'll see what we can do with that moving forward. But what do you say? Let's go ahead and jump into some HomeTech headlines. All right, got a couple of follow-up things with Cydia. Just more and more information keeps flowing out of that, and it looks like from what everybody was saying, there's about 1,400 people that actually attended the show, and still not really sure if that includes the people who are manning the booths and who were just there as part of the show. But really looks like it was just a really rough show this year, as we all kind of expected. I did hear back from some manufacturers who said that they were having conversations with people on site, and they were really enjoying those conversations because they could just have full and complete conversations about anything and everything that potential client or dealer or whoever wanted to talk about. So it was really good having some really good extensive one-on-one time, and I know that probably some dealers appreciate that as well. That said, go check out our HomeTech Talk over there at HomeTech.fm. You can jump into that. Actually, it's HomeTech.fm/talk. We'll bring you right to the YouTube video, so you can watch it there. And it was a lot of good. We had a bunch of manufacturers pop in throughout that period of time, and Josh AI's Alex Capilasantro. I'm going to mess his name up. It's late. Capisalantro was able to join us, and he just kind of like popped in from like the beach or something. It was great. So something to check out. Speaking of shows, NAB canceled, and I'm waiting. I don't know what's going to happen with Infocom. Like, NAB is huge. Sony had indicated they were going to be pulling out of NAB, I think. And so I just don't know how this is going to go. I thought it was kind of strange that the Sony booth, the virtual booth, that we kind of like had a little watch party for that. They spent a significant amount of their time talking about their commercial products. It was kind of like a joint, it felt like an Infocom presentation where you would maybe talk a little bit about the home audio, video type stuff, but then bump it right up into the professional stuff. I thought that was kind of strange and not going to make sense. They're, going to probably do the same show for Infocom when that comes around. But after Cydia, Snap AV or Snap One and Control 4 announcement came out. It was kind of like one of the pre-recorded videos. I think it was John Heyman, the CEO over there. He kind of like introduced a number of the new initiatives and talked about their experience and why they pulled out of Cydia. If you're a Control 4 dealer, you had access to that, but there was a bunch of new stuff that new and old stuff that they talked about. There's a new single gang amplifier thing that kind of fits in a wall plate that has Alexa built in. And they said it's coming soon on that. I think they've announced this before, but I thought it was a neat product, and I think it deserves a little bit mention here. It's a mini 5.1 receiver. I think it's been out for a couple months, but it looks pretty cool, and it's like small. I always like small equipment that works. Stick that into like a small cabinet. You got a full 5.1 system. I might even be able to fit it behind a TV in one of their wall boxes or something. It's tiny looking, but looks like a really neat product. They've got a bunch of IP controlled amplifiers on the way, more subwoofers and speakers. Pulse 8 matrix switches are being brought in for 4K 60 switching. I guess it's HE-Base-T. And then Control 4 was showing off their new keypad designs, which are just keycaps. I don't know. They look kind of nice. They're like more of a flat look than the rounded button look, and kind of a more modern look to them. And they've got another, key covers that go in there and go with them as well. So really classes up the line. And I think from what I was told and what I was reading, it looks like it's just a one-to-one swap on the keypads themselves with the existing keypads. So you just pull off the buttons, put the new buttons on. You got a whole new fresh look and everything for the Control 4 system. So it's really not a bad idea. They announced a bunch of other stuff that they had announced before, like Oversee being built into all the controllers. One thing that the new Control 4 OS will have that it's finally like being brought back to like 2006 here is a multi-room display for like video, basically video wall control. It's being brought back into Control 4. This was in there years ago. It was in there when I started working with Control 4 back in the like 1.3 days. Maybe it was in 1.25. I'm not too sure about it. I know one of my very first Control 4 systems had a video wall in it. And a video wall is a sports bar type system that you'd have it out of a big house or something. You'd have one TV in the middle, two TVs on the side, and they had a control interface on their touchscreen, so you'd be able to swap back and forth easily, between the TVs, both the audio and the video. If something was happening on the left TV, you'd hit a button, it would swap that for the center TV, and you'd have the audio video coming out. It's a really cool setup, but they took it away and never really replaced it with anything. It's been years and years and years that I know people have had some really strange and odd workarounds that they've had to do over time. So I'm glad to see that finally coming back, and I'm really kind of curious to play with it and see what they've done with it. They also added a bunch of language support, for general interface improvements in Control 4. So, like I said, I'm really curious and looking forward to playing with that kind of stuff. As for news over the last couple of weeks, I'm having to divide this up. So I'm going to start with kind of the boring stuff, the business news, so to speak. Kind of things that are related around mergers and business in general. First we've got to talk about is Sonos announced and began raising the prices on a majority of their products, as we all kind of head towards the end of the year, when those are typically one of the more promising things that you would get, right? Kind of during their previous earning calls, they indicated that both supply and demand would factor into decision to raise prices. And kind of thought that was interesting. Well, they did it. Some of the big movers were the Arc is going up $100 to $899. The Sub Amp and Sonos 5 all going up $50 to $749, $699, and $549 respectively. The Sonos 1 and 1 SL will bump $20 to $219 and $199. And the Roam, the new one, will jump $10, going up from $169 to $179. Ouch. Only the Port and the Move are not going to see a price increase, which is interesting. I wonder if these are like their really hot selling products that we kind of went through here, and they're just kind of like going to raise the price. Obviously, demand is a problem right now, or supply is a problem with the chip things. In fact, no one's really knows what the problem here is. The Verge did manage to pry a response out of Sonos, and they said Sonos is always assessing market dynamics, including demand, supply chain, component costs, and the competitive landscape. And it led The Verge to believe and speculate that the current chip shortage might have something to do with the price increase. But there's been no real official reason for them doing this price increase right now. They haven't really come out and said why they did it. So there you go. Another chip shortage, maybe. I don't know. I'm wondering if they aren't, skeptically, I wonder if they aren't like sandbagging sales for Q4. I'm sure they have plenty of sales built in towards the end of the holiday season, that they can kind of estimate and schedule out for both retail and custom AV. So, a lot of people purchase and put in Sonos towards the end of the year here. And they've got a lot of proof to investors after that real successful launch of the Roam earlier this year, and then showing really good profit margins after they let everyone go that worked at the company. So, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting move. We'll have to see how that one plays out. Here's a little story that kind of went under the radar this last couple of weeks. Assa Abloy is set to acquire Spectrum Hardware and Home Improvement division for $4.3 billion. And if you don't know about Spectrum HAI, that you probably know a few of their brands that are under that division. And mainly we're going to talk about Kwikset and Baldwin here. So if you think about Assa Abloy, that's Yale, August, Kwikset, Baldwin. That's everybody. That's every single residential lock company. I think the only one I can think of is Slade, which is owned by Elysian, I believe. So, I'm blown away by this. This is wild. this is we're almost about to, we're going to run into another we've got MyQ situation here, where we have all of these brands kind of under one division, and they'll be able to to do what they want, and nobody's going to have to be able to do anything about it. Luckily, Slade is pretty big and pretty popular, especially among like production builders and that kind of thing. So I see Slade locks out there quite a bit. But wow, Yale, August, Kwikset, Baldwin, all under one company now. That's wild. Another big news, I guess, kind of in the industry is Melrose has sold off NorTech Control for $285 million. You're not familiar with NorTech Controls, you might have heard a few of their brands: 2GIG, Elan, Speakercraft, Linear, Panamax Furman, and Proficient Audio. It's all pretty interesting news right now because we don't know who the owner of NorTech Controls is. The deal has evidently been done, signed on the dotted line. But what we do know is that the deal actually requires federal approval, which leads everyone to believe that, it's a public company that's making the purchase, and the feds are having to looking to see if there's any regulations that are going to be violated, or, this is going to create some kind of monopoly or something around this. All kind of big business stuff here. These are a lot of brands kind of being pushed together, and just really curious who the new buyer is. Who do you think it is? Let me know. Feedback at HomeTech.fm, or just, tweet us at HomeTech Podcast. Let me know. I'm really curious as to what the speculation is these days. We can't make heads or tails out of it. No, it can't be Snap AV. It wouldn't make any sense. They have Control 4 and literally an answer to every single one of the brands there. So I don't know. It's interesting because whoever did purchase all of these brands now could stand them up to kind of like go up against Snap One. So I don't know. Very interesting. Let me know if anybody has any ideas. Let me know. And last in the business news, Oro is going pro. We had them on the show a couple months ago, and this last week they announced a new driver that's going to bring compatibility over to Control 4 systems and a new pro dashboard. And I'll talk about here in a second. The driver is really cool because it allows for like a completely programmable digital keypad switch kind of in the Control 4 ecosystem. And it enables Oro's like touchscreen interface to execute lighting scenes and other programming through the Control 4 system. So really, to me, the best part of all that is you can put one of these Oros in for about the same price, if not a little bit less, as a Control 4 6-button keypad dimmer. And it's going to you don't have to ever engrave it. Like, you can just change the engravings anytime you want. They don't wear off. They're not going to get damaged. And, this type of device isn't going to be great for every single place you want one of those 6-button keypads, but having the ability to add more buttons to an interface or have a dynamic interface, I think is a great idea. So I'm super excited about that. They also announced a new remote management system. They're calling Oro Pulse, which will help professional dealers, I guess, and installers remotely diagnose and fix issues that typically would require an on-site visit. The Oro Pulse is going to allow for kind of the basics: remote diagnostic information, remote reboot, checking wireless signal, and adjusting a couple of settings on the switch. So it's a great idea. And I really like the idea of the Control 4 driver. So it's interesting to see Oro kind of step in. I know that they had I think their price was like $299. I think it's now $399 for one of these things. And it's their prices have gone up a little bit. And I heard people in the DIY space were kind of pushing back a little bit on that. But, it kind of makes sense. If they're going to make moves into the pro space, they're going to have more margin built in for everyone else in that chain, and for dealers to really bring it into to what they want to sell. They're going to have a little bit more margin built into it. So that it really sounds like they're making moves in the pro market space now, and kind of going after builders and that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out moving forward. And all right, so I got some new products here, and kind of moving past the business news. A new Apple certified hub from Thinka. Hold on. There we go. New bell. There we go. It claims to bring support to more than 3,000 new accessories and devices. Brings those in to the HomeKit ecosystem through Z-Wave. So this one's interesting to watch. Apple has traditionally not allowed bridge type devices on the HomeKit platform unless the hub itself and the attached accessories to that hub communicated over an encrypted protocol. At least that's what people say or claim. I've heard that a million times. I've heard every other excuse as to why Apple has never allowed bridge type devices on their system, but it's not completely true. Lutron, if you look at Lutron Caseta, they use their own proprietary ClearConnect RF protocol. It's not encrypted, and it's been reverse engineered plenty of times. So I'm not sure why Apple would bother keeping cool devices like this off the system. Just open the floodgates and let this stuff in, and stop hiding behind mystery and intrigue. My reverse engineered Homebridge Control 4 setup is probably the best thing I've ever done with HomeKit, and it's worked better than HomeKit certified devices, that are Wi-Fi and deployed to the system. And the reason for that is because they're not using Wi-Fi to communicate out to my devices. Everything's hardwired between the device, the NAS drive that's running the Homebridge service on it, and the Control 4 controller, which is hardwired into the network and runs the Zigbee network that sets everything up. That doesn't go down. That doesn't stop working. And when you have that reliable piece in between, you don't have to worry about radio interference messing up Wi-Fi and messing up some kind of broadcast between an IoT device. It's where we're going. It's what Matter is for. And the faster we move these IoT devices off of Wi-Fi and onto Thread and Matter, Zigbee, whatever you want to call it, and in this case Z-Wave, the better off we're going to be. Wi-Fi is just simply not designed for IoT, and the rough edges have been clearly showing. I think that's why we're seeing these big companies finally get together and kind of group around Matter / Zigbee, whatever we want to call it, over the last couple of years. And hopefully, as we move into next year, we'll start seeing a lot of those devices get released and people kind of getting more excited about home automation products, consumer level home automation products moving forward, because it's, I think a lot of people got really excited about this stuff a couple of years back, put it all in, and then, it didn't really work the way it was. Unreliable. It didn't work all that great. They're looking for something better. And I think once we have the protocol, the foundation laid there, we're going to be a lot better for it. Anyway, super excited about this hub. It's Thinka says, that's the name of the company. Thinka says it will ship in Europe first for €429 before coming later to the US sometime next year. All right, I've got a couple of stories that this is really cool. Actually, it's all centering around input zero, and we've talked about input zero a number of times on the show. But it's basically the idea of like when you turn your TV on, you're watching TV. You're watching what you want to be. You're on input zero. You don't have to change back and forth between HDMI to watch something. So both Comcast and Amazon have announced that their intent to sell their own line of smart TVs. So starting off with Amazon, they're basically going to put a Fire TV inside of these new TVs. They've got a couple of series here. Fire TV Omni series is going to feature support for HDR10, HDL, Dolby Digital Plus, and it'll start at $410 and be available in a 43, 50, 55, 65, and 75 inch model sizes. Pretty good range there. This is their higher end level tier, I guess. The 65 and 75 inch models, they're also going to get support for Dolby Vision. So that should be pretty nice. Maybe in those TVs. They have this Omni series also includes smart home integrations. So you can have like picture-in-picture camera viewing. Somebody rings your Ring doorbell. It's going to pop up on your TV, kind of like what Apple's doing with HomeKit right now. Amazon says it will be rolling out an all-new smart home dashboard on these too. So you can kind of like get in and tweak device settings and that kind of thing, or view devices in general around your house right on the TV screen. That's a great idea. They have a lower end line too. I think it gets those smart home features as well. It kind of mentioned that they won't have Alexa integration in it for some reason. Really wasn't too positive on that. It sounds like the Omni series offers like Alexa integration with the remote and that kind of thing. Anyway, this lower tier line, I guess, Fire TV 4 series, it's going to start at $370 for 43 inch, 50 and 55 inch sizes. So there's also a new Fire TV 4K Max stick that'll be coming out for $55 as well. So moving along there. Let's look at Comcast real fast. They have just about the same thing with just two TV models, though. A magazine called Protocol has figured this all out and is reporting that they're going to team up with Hisense to sell two TVs under the X-Class TV. And then they'll basically be powering those two TVs with the X1 operating system. So basically a cable box in your TV, essentially what that is. This is the same idea behind the Xfinity Flex system. If you've seen those or you have one of those, it's a little streaming box that you can get and watch and stream TV on. You don't even have to be in an Xfinity or Comcast service area. I think you can get those anywhere. These TVs, that's how they're going to be set up. There's no, you don't have to be in a Comcast area to get one of these. It's just basically a streaming box. The protocols also discovered the company has filed for a trademark for X-Class TV and snagged a domain up, which doesn't point to anything right now, but they actually dug a little bit deeper and found a temporary staging site that leads to a bit more details. There's going to be two 4K TV models with screen sizes of 43 and 50 inches. Apps are available on the platform, include Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, Disney+, Tubi, and Pluto, as well as Comcast's own Peacock and Xumo streaming services. New subscribers are going to get a free year of Peacock Premium for activating an X-Class TV. So, okay, blah, 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 blah. I think this is really all really cool, and it's actually kind of big. I think it's going to be the future of our cable TVs, especially. What's wild to me is that Comcast in particular is like intent on having some kind of hardware in place to support their streaming services. It's like, why not just make an app and like everyone else does, and make it a good app and put it out there on all the hardware they can, like Apple TV or Roku. And yeah, I know there's a beta app on Roku and I know it works really well. Like, why not just make that available everywhere and stop dealing with hardware? I don't know. It just seems like Comcast just can't get out of that hardware bug. Amazon's pretty straightforward in what they're trying to do, right? They're just trying to give you a input zero device. And they want you to go directly to their services and their horrible UI and buggy ecosystem. I'm not a fan of Fire TV. I'm not a fan of Amazon Prime app. It's not very good either. But I have no doubt the quality of the TVs will kind of be what we expect them to be. And I'd be equally impressed if they're just a little bit better. If we get some decent 4K Dolby Vision TVs from Amazon, in that 65 and 75 inch class, I'm sure they won't be that much. It's going to compete with something like a TCL. We'll have to see what they bring. And if they're successful at something like this, maybe they'll iterate, and over time we'll get better and better pictures out of them. And finally tonight, we've got Nubicasa, the company behind the free and open source Home Assistant, has launched its first ready-to-use hub that can run on the software right out of the box, named the Home Assistant Amber. The device is basically a Raspberry Pi Compute 4 module. They call it a CM4 module. A custom board that's kind of been designed and has built-in Zigbee 3 radio to control products like Philips Hue and IKEA shades, but it's also one of those Zigbee modules, radios that will support Matter sometime next year. So you can see where they're going with that. Z-Wave can be added in through a dongle, and there's an M2 extension port. So if you want to put a small, like laptop type SSD hard drive on there for more storage, you could. But unlike current methods of installing Home Assistant, there's no programming required. Everything you need to do, you can just like plug and play. And this is Home Assistant right out of the box. This is, if I go back to like our reviews of these, let's go back and find that episode. It was a long time ago where Jason and I kind of like went through all of these. Home Assistant looked very promising, had a great UI, but man, you had to set it up with all this, what they call YAML, which is kind of this markup language. I don't know why anyone uses it. It's horrible, but it's really hard to, like, if you miss a space or you hit an enter wrong, it just gets all out of whack and doesn't work. And it's really tough to use and doesn't read well to me. But that's what you had to get in a text editor and edit this program, this pseudo programming language down. It really wasn't fun to do. But they evidently that you don't have to do that anymore. You just kind of use those mobile or desktop apps to get things set up. Hey, perfect. It sounds like they have, it's been 8 years they've been plugging away at this relentlessly. So it's really cool to see them finally get to this point where they're actually releasing hardware, a hub. There we go. Another hub bell. When is the last time that we rang 2 hub bells on the show? Man, it's gotta been years ago now. It's kind of wild. Here's my favorite part. There's no Bluetooth and no Wi-Fi on this thing. So it's just hardwired Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet. And Home Assistant founder Paulus Schoutston says that's because they don't want people to get the idea to connect the brains of their smart home via Wi-Fi. It needs to be a reliable connection. I don't think you guys realize how like on the same wavelength we are here. This is exactly what you should be doing. If you have a controller, it shouldn't be a Wi-Fi module or something. It needs to have a hardwired connection. Home Assistant Amber is debuting on a crowdfunding platform called Crowd Supply. This week, it's $149 for the box. It's designed for beginners and experienced home automation or Home Assistant fans. If you want to get like a little more industrious, there's also an option to build your own kit. It costs $99 for that. And there's another kit too. I noticed that it's $99 for a PoE option as well. So you don't have to have the power supply. You can just plug it into a PoE switch and it powers up. It's a great idea. Neither of those 2 kits come with the Compute 4 module. So you'll have to grab that separately. And I think those are somewhere around $89. All in all, it's not a bad price because just like grabbing a case, a Compute 4, the CM4, grabbing a case, power supply, a couple of extra things, get all that around $120-ish, somewhere in there. So really for just those parts, $30 more to get like a put together system, really not a bad deal. So go check that out. Shipping is targeted for June 2022 if they make the $140,000 funding goal. And it looks like they're about 40% there as sitting down recording the show tonight. So good luck to them. Hopefully we'll see more out of them here in the future. All right, going to move on to this next part of the show here. Don't forget, you can join us live. Typically, I'm saying typically because I haven't done this very well on the last couple of shows, but typically on Wednesday, starting sometime between 7 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more about that at HomeTech.fm/live. Really just follow the HomeTech Twitter account and you'll see occasionally I'll tweet out, hey, going live. All the links and topics we discussed tonight will be found at the show notes at HomeTech.fm/364. Link is HomeTech.fm/364. Pick of the week this week. From time to time, I wonder if like I have the best streaming plans because I've got a couple of them that I have turned on right now. And I'm always wondering if there's like a better one to fit needs or like, how can I wedge HBO or Hulu back in? Because there may be something on like HBO or Hulu that I want to see. And it's really kind of tough right now with the way they're structuring all of this stuff to figure out like where the good deals are. And what you need is one of these comparison sites. And I ran across one the other day called Suppose. It's over at suppose.tv. And it's really, really cool. It's probably one of the best ones I've seen because it lets you kind of adjust like little small details that may make big changes in the way you purchase a streaming TV platform or program or carrier. I'm not sure. It has so many options on this thing, but basically you start off normal. Like you say, I am in this area, and you select some channels that you may find important and kind of even better, you can actually rank those channels in order of importance. Like put, if you want to really watch HBO, put that at the top, Discovery stuff at, second. It's really neat how they lay this out. And it starts bringing in results and bringing in plans that have those channels and things. Even better, you can choose what kind of device you have. Like if you have an Apple TV, if you have iPhone, Android, if you have a Roku streaming stick or something, you can check all that off and it will collect and put all the best deals that can be on those devices together. So it's really, really cool. And then you have like all the other, filter refinements, all that stuff that you can think of, like, spend more, spend less kind of thing. This all the normal stuff that we've seen before. But really, I think what this gets down to is like trying to figure out how to get those packages pulled out, maybe out of the other services, because there's times all the time right now where you can go to Amazon Prime and get something like HBO Max free for 6 months or something like that. So it's kind of one of those things, and you can set alerts up on this too. So they can email you if something comes up like that. So it's a really cool deal site. We've seen a couple of these come and go over the years, and this is kind of the most like complete one I've ever seen. So if you're in the market, or you're just kind of have like a question about, do you have the best package for your streaming needs? Maybe check, suppose.tv out and see if there's something that's better for you in your price range. And if you have any feedback, comments, questions, picks of the week, or great ideas for a show, give me a shout. Email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or you can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. And I do want to thank everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about the Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support and learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as about $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to a private Slack to the hub. Wow, I'm saying this way too fast because it's way late. Gets you a private invite to our private Slack chat over at the hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day. And we've been talking about all sorts of stuff in there. I just saw a few minutes ago that Robert posted something about a $2 million TV or something. I've got to go check this thing out. Anyway, also you'll get an invite, and you can go into the patron feeds and get an invite over to the HomeTech Talks that we do every week. So like I said, bringing those back next week. Hopefully we'll find a better time for it. If you want to help out but can't support the show financially, totally understand. Just appreciate a 5-star review or positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. And with that, wrap up another week of home technology news. A lot going on, a lot kind of like, it was kind of in the background there that I've been saving up over the last couple of weeks of taking a little bit of a break of talking for 5.5 hours straight. It was kind of rough. I didn't actually take a break the entire time. I took one break to grab a glass of water kind of early on, but that was about it. And just sat there, had a great time talking the entire time. Like I said, if you want to check that out, I just want to pop in and listen to it. HomeTech.fm/talk. We'll get you there. I might be able to pull the audio out of that too. So if there's any interest in putting that maybe into the podcast feed, that's a 5.5 hour podcast. That would be crazy. But if there's any interest in me supplying the audio for that, let me know. Just drop me a line, HomeTech.fm/feedback, or shoot an email over to me, and I'll do it. I'll get it done for you. With that, everybody have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.